And when I was a young woman, when I was around 19 years old, I became pregnant. And when I first found out I was pregnant, I was excited. Baby. Wow. And I had this idea that, my boyfriend and I were gonna, move into my parents' basement, and we were gonna have this baby, and life was gonna be great. But I knew that my mother wasn't gonna be very happy about it. And so I put it off, and I finally told my mom, and she said, well, it's legal now. We'll call our doctor, and we'll make you an appointment, and we'll take care of it. And right away, I just thought, oh, gosh, of course, how could I be so stupid? I can't have this baby. My parents have high hopes for me. I'm supposed to, go to college and have this great career. I can't have a baby. That's going to ruin everything. And before I knew what was happening, before I really even had time to think, there I was at the abortion clinic in Brookline. It wasn't Planned Parenthood. It was another one. And the whole time I was there, I was just thinking, somebody, please help me. I don't want to do this. But nobody did, and I was young, and I was scared, and I didn't ask questions, and I was feeling really pressured into it, like I didn't have another choice. And they put me to sleep, and when I woke up, I was in the recovery room, and when they let me leave, there's like a little room where you meet the person who brought you to the abortion clinic, and I just burst into tears. I was just sobbing. I just felt so empty, empty physically, empty emotionally, empty spiritually. You wake up and your baby's gone. And my mom kind of looked at me like, what are you crying about? This is good. And I realized, geez, this is so stupid. Why am I crying? It's over. And we talked about what we're going to have for lunch, and we had lunch, and we went home, and I never spoke to anybody about it, ever. And it is true what they say. You do feel relieved. The decision was over. I didn't have to think about it anymore. I can move on with my life. But what they don't tell you about is the lifetime of not just regret, but horror, shame, the depression, the anxiety, the inability to form relationships with people. They don't tell you about any of that. And, so what I did, the way I handled it, was I buried it so deeply that I couldn't even admit to myself that I had killed my baby. I just forgot all about it, and I decided I was going to be the world's greatest feminist, that I was going to follow in Mom's footsteps, that I was going to, that abortion was a right for women, and it was a good thing for women, and so I changed my major to women's studies, and, marched on Washington for pro-choice, and really got into the whole sort of feminist ideology, and of course abortion is front and center of that. So when I graduated from college with my women's studies degree, obviously I was fighting off offers for jobs because, a lot of money in that. But I saw that Planned Parenthood was hiring, and I thought, wow, this is great. Because I had it in my idea, I'd never been to a Planned Parenthood, but I had it in my idea that Planned Parenthood was on the forefront of helping women. I didn't know what that meant, but this is how they marketed themselves, that they are pro-woman, that they work really hard for women's rights and for women's access to abortion. So I was really excited about it. So I went to the interview with the manager, and she said, well, do you have any problem with abortion? And I said, well, no, of course not. There's a problem with abortion. I honestly had no idea what I was getting into at all. And so I took the job. I was very excited about it. And the first thing that they had me do was to simply check in the women as they come into the clinic. This was when it was on Ave? Do you remember before it moved? Is that where it was?
Beacon Street.
Beacon Street, thank you. It escaped me. I'm sorry, Beacon Street. So my job was, as the women came in, I would just check them in, hand them a clipboard that had a medical history form on it for them to fill out. And that was all I did at first. I never went to the back of the clinic. I had no idea what went on there. Now, after that, I was trained to do the next step. Now, the next step, after they're checked in, is that you collect their payment. So, before they see anybody, they're paying for their abortion. Whether they're using cash or a credit card or insurance, but before they talk to anybody, they've already paid. Okay? And I think that's important. I think that's really important to know because, we're, Planned Parenthood talks a lot about, choices of doctor-patient relationship, okay? They've paid for the procedure before they've even seen a doctor. So, after I was doing that for a while, I was trained to be a medical assistant. And, excuse me, not a medical assistant, so, counselor, sorry. And I was really excited about being a counselor because I wanted to get my MSW and be a social worker. And I thought, well, this is great. This is right up my alley. I'm going to be working one-on-one with women and providing them with a counseling session. So my training consisted of following somebody for a day. And what they do is they give you a white lab coat and a stethoscope, so you look like you know what you're doing. And the woman comes in and you take the medical history form from her and you sit down and you go through it to see if she's medically eligible for this abortion, to see if there's any red flags. Keep in mind, I was a women's studies major. I don't even think I took a biology class. Okay? So I was meant to go through that medical history form with her, see if there's any red flags that maybe the nurse might want to take a look at, take her blood pressure and her pulse, find out how far along she is, when the first date of her menstrual period was, okay? Now, backing up for a second, okay? I also would answer the phones to make appointments. When somebody calls Planned Parenthood and says that they're pregnant, what do you think Planned Parenthood wants to know?
When can they come in?
They want to know, have you had a positive pregnancy test? And what was the first day of your last menstrual period? Because that's going to determine when they can be booked for an abortion. Is it an early abortion? Is it a late-term abortion? Okay. At the clinic where I worked, we did all abortions all day, every day. Okay. Monday through Saturday, all abortions. Occasional well woman visits. Occasional HIV testing. But that's all we did. So also when they call on the phone, you've asked them, what was the first day of your last menstrual period? Have you had a positive pregnancy test? Will you be using insurance? Okay? You get her, because you want to get her insurance information, so it can be pre-approved if that's necessary. That's what happens on the phone. Okay, they're not being booked for a counseling session. They're not booking women to come in and say, let's talk about your choices. That's not happening. When they're in the counseling session, I've gone through her medical history, I've taken her blood pressure, I've taken her pulse. Okay? The next thing is I'm going to explain the abortion procedure. And what we say is the doctor will gently extract the contents of your uterus. That's it. And then we would talk about birth control. Okay? Now, this is the counseling that we were instructed to give about her choices. Now you know that you can carry this pregnancy to term or have an adoption plan. You know that already, right? That's it. Okay? The assumption is that once she's in that room, she's a grown woman. I'm not going to question her choice. She knows what she's doing. Now, if you had told me when I was working there, that I was in the business of selling abortion, I would have said you were crazy. That's selling abortion. This is what she wants. This is what she came for. But any objection they might have, or any if they said anything that they might seem like they're slightly uncomfortable with it, we would overcome that objection in order to make her more comfortable. I remember one young woman, of course we were right near BU, so we had a lot of college students. And she said to me, you know, I don't know why I'm doing this. I mean, I love children, I want to be a teacher. And I said, well, I think that's why you're doing it, because you love children so much. And I'll never forget that. I think about it every day. At the time, I thought I was helping her. I really thought I was helping her. Because I didn't see any negative aspects for her having the abortion. To me, she could have her abortion, continue with her education, and she'll be a teacher, and she'll achieve her dreams. So I thought I was helping her. So, you know, the counseling that they're talking about, or that they talk about choices for women, you know, why was it that in the entire 2 years I worked there, not one woman left the counseling session and chose life? Not one. The only time I knew of a woman who left after the counseling session and didn't have the abortion was because she was 1 week too far along. She was 24 weeks. So instead of killing her baby, she was being sent home, and she was going to see that same doctor on that Monday for prenatal care. So the doctors that we worked with were all doctors at these hospitals in Boston. They're all OBs. They're delivering babies one day, coming in on another day to kill them. And also, I want to point out, the way that it worked was, you know, the doctors come in, they don't come in at the beginning of the day to meet with the patients, to go over health histories. Oh no. They come in at a particular time when the patients have already gone through the counseling, so that they can just go right to the rooms. And they go from room to room to room to room to room to room. And then they collect their money and they leave. So the counseling, obviously, the patient is not getting full informed information about A, what the procedure entails, B, what the possible after effects would be. We did have a form that they had to sign that had some risks on it, but we didn't actually go through it with them. Here, I just need you to sign this. Give our consent to do the procedure. Give your consent to do the procedure. No one's reading through it. Okay, no one knows that the doctor might rupture her uterus. Okay, nobody knows that hemorrhaging is a possibility. Nobody knows that. Because not one patient reads that. Because when women are going through this abortion clinic process, they're scared. They're ashamed. They're nervous. So they don't ask questions. Very few times do they ask questions. I mean, I had patients in that counseling room who didn't speak English. I remember a Somali woman in particular who came in, she didn't speak any English. They allowed her brother and uncle, who were her translators, to come into the counseling room. Now, normally it's just the woman, nobody else can come in, okay? Because supposedly you want to make sure that she's not being pressured. Well, let me tell you, not one time did I say to a woman, well, what brings you in here today? Have you thought about your other choices? Are you being pressured into this by anybody? Are you safe at home? Not once. So on this particular occasion, the two gentlemen were allowed to come in with this woman who sat in the chair with her head down and didn't look up and didn't speak a word of English. And the gentleman, the husband, said to me, just give her the abortion, give her the abortion, give it to her, give it to her, give it to her, she's fine. So I called my supervisor. And I said, hey, you know, I don't know what's going on here, but she doesn't speak any English, she's not talking, I can't know for sure if this is what she wants. So my supervisor comes into the room and says to the men, well, are you sure this is what she wants? Can you get her to nod her head? So they tell her to nod her head, she nods her head, she said, all right, she's all set. We had young women coming in with their abusers. And the attitude was, we can't do anything about the abuse, but we can give her the abortion. And they send them right back out with their abusers.